Oh, hey there. So we all use emojis way too much, right? Well, what about in your reports? Why would you ever want to? And how would you even do it? Well, in this Wise Out Short, we're going to show you how. In here, we've got a simple table, and if I tried to use standard conditional formatting, I would have options to use some of the inbuilt icons, which are nice, but let's say I wanted to use a picture of my own face, or one of those emojis we were talking about earlier. To do this, we're going to need to create a measure. So, first thing I want you to do is go over to the measure table. Right click, new measure. And then we just need to tweak the code. To zoom in, you can use Control and the plus and minus keys, or you can hold Control and use the wheel on your mouse. The first part is our measure name, so I'm going to call this rating. After that, we need the code for our emojis. Shift and return for a new line. I'm going to use the switch function. Switch function, if you've never used it, is like a nested if. It allows you to test an expression and then compare it to several different outcomes. In this case, I want to test if it is returning true. I.e., are the following conditions met? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in my expression. In this case, I'm going to compare the sum of quantity to each of my different products. Is my sum of quantity less than 1,000? So, for example, if Oscar has 900 sales, that will be evaluated as true, 900 being less than 1,000, which means it will then do the result. So in this case, my result is going to be comma, open a set of quotation marks, and then you could either put in a web URL to an image. You can normally tell because they have JPEG or PNG at the bottom, or you could go to a website such as Emojipedia, where you can actually go in, choose an emoji, and copy it. Alternatively, if you're on a Windows computer, you can actually use the Windows key and full stop. From here, I'm going to choose a sad emoji because we're not doing very well. Click the escape key to exit out of the emoji keyboard and close your quotation marks. And that's your first emoji. When you're in DAX, Control-C, Control-V at the end of a line will copy and paste the line underneath. So I'm going to do that a couple of times. Control-C, Control-V, Control-V. My next bracket is going to be less than 5,000. And then my last bracket is going to be less than 10,000. I'm going to replace my emoji, just deleting it, Windows and full stop. And then I'm going to choose, well, this person's not looking that happy, but they're not unhappy. Click escape, and then into the last one, delete that, Windows and full stop, and then this time a happy face. And then in the escape key. Now, I could leave it at that, but some of my rows may turn out blank. Anything that is more than 10,000 hasn't actually been evaluated. And this is where the last argument of switch comes in, the else part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new line, and in quotation marks, I'm going to add one final emoji. I'm going to go with this cool face one. Click escape, close your quotation marks, and of course close that bracket for the switch function. Hit return. And what that's going to do is anything that hasn't returned true, i.e. isn't less than 1,000, 5,000 or 10,000, it's going to return that instead, which is perfect. Minimize your DAX using this little drop down in the top right hand corner, or simply click on another table or column and that will get rid of the DAX. If you've got the visual selected, you can just tick your new measure, or if you've not got it selected, you can drag it on there. And voila, we've now got emojis in our report. There's a slight problem with this. It's looking great and I'm loving my faces, but if I look at the very bottom, the total also has an emoji. Now, you could turn off the totals. The issue with that is it would turn off all of the totals. So why don't we just try and turn it off for that specific one? You can either edit the existing code or make a separate measure. I'm going to make a separate measure just for ease of use. Right click, new measure, use the little drop down because I've zoomed in, and this will be ignore total equals shift and return, F, shift and return. I can test whether or not this row is being filtered. There's a couple of functions to do this. Has one value? Well, on the row of Nora, there's only one product, Nora. I could do is filtered, which will allow me to work out whether the row is being filtered or not, or I could do a simple count and check if it's equal to 1. All of those allow me to distinguish between this row and the total. So I'm going to say is filtered, and then my column is the product name. Close my bracket, shift and return. That's going to return true on my rows. If it returns true, comma, return my rating measure. Otherwise, if it returns false because I'm on the total, comma, blank. Close my bracket for the if, hit return, add that into my visual, and I'll now see I have all my emoji apart from the total where it's being ignored. This is just one way that you can use emojis though. To give you an idea of a couple of other ways to do it, if I switch over to emoji ideas, you'll see in here I've used the emoji to allow me to show up the top which product's being shown. Oh dear, poor Malcolm's not doing very well. Imogen's doing pretty well though. I've also used this technique to list out all of my products and their relevant awards using their rank. And if they're rank 1, return a little gold medal. If they're rank 2, return silver, so on and so forth. And the final one, what I've done is I've taken their rank and I've used the repeat function to show how many icons based on the position. So here, for example, the mammals there have 6 sloths, the reptiles have 5 lizards, the amphibians have 3 turtles, so on and so forth. I hope you've enjoyed this Wise Owl short. If you have, do let us know how you're going to be using this technique in the comments below and consider giving us a like and subscribe. Otherwise, I'll see you next Tuesday.